I want to start off today's video by encouraging you to ask yourself where you are spiritually today. Where are you in your spiritual journey and what are you most focused on right now? And feel free to leave it in the comments, whatever you're focusing on as far as your self-awareness or self-improvement at this time. Now, I do want to be mindful of self-improvement because I think there's a difference of self-improvement and self-awareness. Too much self-improvement, at least focusing on the improvement itself, can lead to a lack thereof in improvement overall because you're so focused on the improvement that you don't actually get to where you need to be and where you want to be. So this is one of the reasons why self-awareness, I think, is more of a higher virtue, you could say, than self-improvement. Now, it's also the case for those that are just joining. My name is Thaddeus, by the way. This is the Regal Change YouTube channel. And today's topic is going to be on how you are a confident enigma. And people don't understand your coldness sometimes. And you're going to be too cold for some folks out there. And when I say that you're going to be too cold for some people, I really mean that you're just someone that is capable of speaking the truth as it is. You are speaking objective truth into reality, and a lot of times people take that as offensive. They take it as being offensive. They take your directness and your confidence. They can be envious at times of it, but then there are other times where it's almost like they don't want to reflect on what you said in a manner where they look at it and they realize and they understand, okay, this is actually the objective reality. And they can't really, so many people are just stuck in their feelings that they don't know what it's like to step out of the feeling zone and enter the reality zone. They're just lost in the feeling zone and they're floating in this ocean of a feeling, and they can't recognize that the rain that is falling down and each drop of rain is actually just part of the ocean itself altogether. And so they can't really take a bigger look at everything going on. And so the reason that I'm speaking about this is because so many people are deceived nowadays and they don't even know it. And in this video, I'm going to particularly talk about Christians, and a lot of times, well, we'll just see how this goes, but I do not consider myself Christian. I say that I follow Christ. And the reason for that is because I don't want to associate myself, and I don't think Christ wanted us to necessarily associate ourselves with a religion in general. Because the Pharisees in the Bible, the Pharisees were the religious hypocrites that were far too rigid and far too obsessed with the law that they couldn't see what Jesus was actually doing and the freedom that Jesus was, and following Jesus, the freedom that following Jesus grants you and blesses you with. They couldn't see the light in that. They weren't able to look at their sensations and the differences between their sensations and their feelings. They weren't capable of noticing that. And so today, I see a lot of Christians are deceived not by atheists or other different religions or anything like that, but by their own affiliations and by their own leaders in their own affiliation. And a lot of Christians don't realize this. A lot of people in Christianity will prefer to see the teachings of people and the teachings of men over the teachings of Jesus and of God himself. And this doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, it does, but it doesn't, because I used to be an atheist myself. And it wasn't until Jesus found me, I don't say I found Jesus. It wasn't until Jesus found me in the forest of illusion that I was able to see with clear eyes, and I was able to see with a sense of pure light for really the first time. Like, I had been awakening, and there were periods, because I started following Jesus over 2 years ago, and my spiritual awakening was over 5 years ago. And I had, throughout those 3 years up until I came to Jesus, it was really a come to Jesus moment for all intents and purposes altogether. But up until that point, I was participating and studying, and I was highly dedicated to knowing as much about different kinds of spiritual teachings as possible in that time period, because I was just obsessed. I was really obsessed with trying to free myself from the shackles of my own mind. And now I'm at a point in my life where I'm more confident than ever. I'm also, in my community, I'm a bit more mysterious than ever. And not even a bit, I would say, and I'm not even trying to come off as mysterious, but it's like I can walk by, and I don't know if you guys can hear that. Somebody's like shoveling something. Whatever. Just making the video here, but hopefully we'll be able to just carry on. So what was I saying? I was saying that essentially there's a point in which I began to notice that something wasn't adding up with all of these different kinds of teachings. And I knew that I couldn't really go to anybody else, because I had experienced certain things that I just couldn't really, like, I couldn't find anybody that could relate to these kinds of, I don't even know what to call them other than spiritual activities. There was these spiritual activities that I just didn't really understand how to put into words properly. And I knew that I didn't know that this was a skill. Spirituality, in some sense, is a skill. True spirituality, that is. Because you can build your spirit through an array of different difficulties to get to a point in which now you are that person that nobody really understands. Like, they do understand, but they don't. Like, your words are neither light nor dark. And that's really what pisses them off, because you are life, like, you are the vessel of life itself, and you are acting as a vessel of God and a vessel of light. But the words and the way that you move are just so different and so vastly different from the majority of people that you're bound to be noticed. And even if you're someone that doesn't want to particularly be noticed. And this is something that I'm going through right now. But this is the thing, guys, is just by you being who you are, their vanity is being checked to a degree in which they are not comfortable. They are not comfortable to the degree in which their vanity is being exposed, and they're going to try to almost give you their demons so that they don't have to deal with it. I'm going through this right now. There's some women and there's some men that are trying to, even right now, I can feel like the message that I'm trying to speak here doesn't really want to expose itself to the world. And even with the people out there like shoveling right now, like, it's like they're trying to make so much noise. Like, these spirits are trying to make so much noise to not let me get this message out. And again, I don't know if you guys can hear the shoveling, but my goodness, it can be. I'll play back the video, and if it's okay, then I'll just carry on. But basically, what we're dealing with is petulant children. And a lot of the times, these are full-grown adults. They are full-grown adults that never actually got to the place that they were able to mature, and they were able to actually self-reflect and have some self-awareness. the more I grow in my own path and the more confident I become, the more competent I become, the more skilled I become, the more physically fit I become, the more emotionally and spiritually wealthy I become, because every day it's like my gratitude for God grows exponentially, and my gratitude for life itself grows exponentially. It's beginning to seem as though I'm entering a period in my life where, and perhaps some of you may relate to this, it's like a place of timelessness. You know that you have a limited number of breaths to take on this planet, but you also are fully accepting and accepted the fact that that is the case. And in your acceptance of that, the degree in which you accept it, the greater your fulfillment in life. That's kind of the correlation that I found, is the more that you accept your limitlessness in this moment, but while simultaneously accepting that your life, your ego is not going to be here. Your ego is not here as much as it wants to think it is. The more that you accept that, the more you simultaneously grow in faith, and you simultaneously grow in understanding the true mechanisms of reality and the true mechanisms of life, which is rather, life is about people and family. It's individual freedom is of utmost importance. Number one priority for me, for sure. Like, I think we should all have individual freedom as the number one goal for everybody, because ultimately, if you free yourself, you're going to be able to help others free themselves just by being who you are. But you might piss some people off in the process, but you can only do what you can do. You can't really force people to wake up. You can't really force people to awaken themselves. You can provide guidance and you can provide support, but you can't really force people to see something that they don't want to see. I mean, that's just how some things go. And so ask yourself whether or not you're being deceived, and ask yourself whether or not this is actually something that you can feel in your body. So, for example, with this one woman in particular, well, I guess it's more like a group of women altogether, but there was one that kind of initiated the contact with me. It's almost like today I looked at her in the eye, and immediately I could feel like she was trying to give me some kind of negative energy, and it felt demonic. And as soon as I looked her in the eye, it was like my whole stomach began to churn, and it was just a gut-wrenching feeling that the only other times that I felt that kind of feeling was around my narcissistic family members, when I felt severely unsafe and I felt severely manipulated. And I don't really have a relationship with this person by a long shot. We've had a couple conversations, but they were like maybe like 10 to 20 seconds each. And so we've exchanged certain kinds of energy, but at the same time, I've also been protecting my energy. But when in that moment, when I felt that, and you know this feeling, like your body is so smart, your body is super smart. And immediately when I had that feeling, I knew, okay, this is the kind of person that this person is. So steer clear from them. And you must still steer clear from these kinds of people, because otherwise they will curse your life. Why? Because they are cursed. They are cursed, and you do not want other people that are cursed in your life, because you will, by definition, block your blessings. You will, by definition, block the grace of Jesus. You will, by definition, not understand the greater nature and the gratitude of life in itself, because you'll be so brain fogged, and there will be so much noise in your head that you won't be able to look forward with a sense of clarity and righteousness. So if you always have to listen to your body. That's something that I wish I allowed myself to do more growing up. I didn't really start to feel like I was in my body. Like, once I started to realize that my body was more so of a vehicle than anything else, it is a vehicle of my soul. That was when I started to understand that it's kind of like taking care of a vehicle, like an automotive vehicle. You've got to make sure there's gas in the tank. You've got to make sure that the oil's changed. You got to make sure the filters in the engine are clean. You've got to make sure that your alternator's good. You got to make sure that your tires aren't going bald. Like, all of these things. Got to make sure your tires are aligned. Just like little maintenance here and there. And that's kind of how you approach the body. But the body takes far more attention and care. You know, you've got to have the right nutrition. You've got to have the right kind of workout regimen. You've got to have certain kinds of vitamins and minerals in your body. Otherwise, you're not going to get to where you need to get to, and with your body, that is. And otherwise you're going to become a gross image of unhealthiness and ugliness. And that can sound kind of harsh, but look at all these people around you. Look at all the depleted coomers. And you can tell the women that are playing with themselves too, like gentlemen. Like, you can tell. They usually, I don't know what it is, but like for some reason, I've noticed that with certain kinds of women, and this goes for men too, but like, we see it more easily in men. I think everybody just sees it more easily in men. Maybe it's just because, like, men, you can really notice if a man is not taking care of himself. Whereas like Lizzo, like Lizzo is obviously overweight, and she's obviously got some kind of form of fame, and she's got some kind of form of status, but her physical health is poor, very poor. Now, we'll still tell this kind of woman, for example, like, oh yeah, you go, girl, but if we see some guy that is obviously fat and not taking care of himself, and he's just the guy that's playing video games or whatever, we have no problem as a society telling him that he needs to shape up. But for someone like Lizzo, for some reason, like, I don't know exactly what it is, but that's just where we're at. That's just where we're at. So I think everybody knows whether or not someone is actually like healthy, because you'll feel are in their presence. When you are around someone that is a freer soul than most, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. Even in the words that they speak, you're going to feel something. And that's part of the reason why someone like you and your confidence as a godly person, for both males and females, and it's not even necessarily a confidence for women. It's more of a natural inclination to nurture. For the men, it's more of that bold confidence, but for women, it's more of a instinct and an intuition for nurturing. That's what's most attractive for, and that's what I would say, maybe not most attractive necessarily, but most noticeable when it comes to something apart from looks. So for females, that is. So all goes to say is that we have to recognize and accept where we're at, and how sometimes we're going to come across as kind of cold to other people because you might be someone that just moves in silence. And that might piss some people off too. People get upset for all different kinds of reasons. And then other people want to just know more about you and they actually have interest in you. But you've got to be able to have the discernment. And it's almost like you can just see things happening. You get to a point to where you can see things happening before they actually happen in some way, because you notice certain patterns of behavior that people have. And then you base on your experience, you say, okay, well, due to the way that people are phrasing these kinds of things and talking to me in this kind of way, the possibility of the outcome being a certain X way is greater than whatever percent based off of my past experiences. For example, whenever I hear anybody say like, "Hey, can I steal this from you?" or "Can I steal that from you?" It's a minor thing, but it's very subconscious, like what kind of person they really are. If somebody asks, "Hey, can I steal that from you?" like maybe they're just wanting to take, like for example, like in this example I'm speaking of, I'm directly talking about like the gym. If somebody says, "Hey, can I steal that weight from you?" I don't like people stealing from me, man. I don't like people stealing from me. And I've said that before, and people just kind of like, they don't know what to say back. But it's like, you can take it. You can take that weight. I'm not using that, And that's another phrase as well. Like, how notice the certain ways. Like, are they using this person? Like, are they just reflecting who you are? Because a lot of the times, it's one thing to be inspired by somebody, but it's also another thing to just try to take somebody's personality because they want what you have. They want the light. They don't want to do the work, though. And this is one of the things that is most disgusting about these kinds of people. They will fight for your attention. They will fight for you to look at them a certain way, only to turn around and just go somewhere else as if you weren't even there to begin with. These kinds of people you need to stay away from. You need to stay away from them. And you've got to be watchful. And you've got to be noticing this kind of thing. In the Bible, it says that God's people will be a peculiar people. You are going to be peculiar, and you're going to be attracting a lot of different kinds of people. You've got to be able to have the discernment on who to keep at arm's length and who not to, like who you can actually accept more into your life. And with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.